Hey everybody, this is SIG Architecture and Production Readiness. Office hours, May 20 or November 29th, not May. Excellent. Let me display this. So what we wanted to do today is we've had a number of people shadowing for several cycles, and we wanted to take a look at how things were coming along as far as, and I think Joe submitted a PR. Is it showing my screen?
No screen share yet.
I try and click on the share button and it doesn't. There we go.
There it goes.
Okay, so Joe also submitted.
I dropped Joe's PR and oh, you got it.
Thank you. Oh, you're ahead of me. Thank you. Okay, so how do we want to proceed? Like we had a list of criteria. We can take a look. It looks like Han, based on counts of numbers, that looks pretty good. David and Wojciech, do you have any thoughts here about how we want to proceed? I mean, we could just, I don't think we're going to individually
I think,
review.
yeah, I guess we want something like Joe submitted, because like we had though like 7 or something criteria that we added, and I think Joe listed a bunch of those. I think like he split, like he gave examples for every of those.
Right.
I guess maybe except from the last one that we added like the day before yesterday or something like that. My change to show that like people are able to push back. But I think instead, except from that, I think I didn't look into those, but like I hope that those match the criteria. So I think we want something like that from everyone, I guess.
Yeah. Right. Okay. This is exactly. So what we want is to see that we're hitting the criteria. He's hitting all the different things, and I guess we need to validate that we agree, and then we need to say whether those are, adequate, which is somewhat of a judgment call, but definitely that's the basic idea. So I'm glad everybody was able to put. Oops, wrong project. Where's my window that I am sharing?
So one difference between Han's and Joe's is Han linked the PRs where he actually commented, and Joe linked the issues. And my preference would be for the PRs like Han did. I like the structure that Joe has.
Yeah.
And so
Plus
if we create a
one for
template, that
PRs,
might help
yes.
do it. But yeah, it's helpful to be able to say, here are the PRs, jog your memory, because we double checked all these, but it helps to jog the memory to say, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yes, I agree. That would be super helpful as sort of like a combination of those two. So if Joe could show us his actual reviews as opposed to the issues, so we don't have to do so much spelunking on each one. I know he has to do it, but it's one person, not 3 or 4. And then but yeah, if folks could break it out by criteria, that would be ideal. So it looks like just that will also help show the gap. Like we see some gaps here, although these tend to be just almost, you know, hopefully by the time they get to GA, there's not much change. If we look at the other criteria, yeah, we kind of need to see whether we have coverage of these different areas. But it's looking pretty good. So I mean, I don't know what more to say about it other than, you know, Han looks like he's probably got a wide enough variety to also hit them. It looks like Joe is hitting the criteria, but it's hard for us to drill in and see the details of those without the PR links. Any other thoughts from folks? I would love to get this done, like get a couple of people on board like really soon.
On your list of 2023 objectives, was it?
Exactly, it is. Exactly.
I think it's worth mentioning in case other people feel the same. Han had mentioned that that he would prefer to go from reviewer or shadow to approver in a cadre of other people.
Yeah.
And if someone else is also concerned about, know that that's a thing that you can just let us know, and we'll be mindful of it. So
Yeah, he'd like to share the load a little more than just with the three of us that have it now. But I mean, we also don't need to share load evenly, right? Like there have been times when one of us or more of us at times have been had urgent escalations or family things or vacations that because of shifts in timelines ended up in the wrong place. Like we you know, if you can only do 10, you can do 10. And so you don't have to be like, well, I signed up, now I need to take an equal share. I mean, we'd love you.
Yeah, that's still visible help. Like if we had like 10 less to share, even if
exactly. Yeah. So do any of the shadows have questions? Do you see what you need to do to help us get there? Did you, as we went through this process, did you find areas, and maybe once you break it out the way Joe did, this will be even more, but did you find things that you want in the next cycle to actually, you know, target to hit? That's part of the goal of this too, right? Is to make sure you guys are getting what you need to, getting to what you need to. Machu.
Yeah, so the biggest question that I had when I was going through this, and circling back to the requirements, I'll probably just go for another round of shadows before signing up to feel a little bit more confident. I only did it for one release, so I feel confident, but not confident to be sole approver. But my biggest question was around the depth of the reviews. Oftentimes some of the PRR questions are not going too deep into the architectural decision that folks are taking. And I usually end up just reading the whole cap to understand what it is about. And I was wondering how much should we be focusing only on the PRR reviews versus looking at the cap as a whole.
I think you should look as the kept as a whole. The goal isn't just to punch these buttons on these particular questions. Since you're there and you are, you know, an experienced person with a lot of broad knowledge and judgment across the whole project, your meaningful comments I think are important. Now, I say that, but what tends to happen to me is in the first part of the cycle when I've got time, I always have to read the cap, but I don't always I sometimes leave things that I'm just like, well, I only have to, I have, there's only this much time, and I just do what I can do. But you do have to read the cap. You have to, even the simplest ones take at least a little while to understand what the heck this thing is about, and make sure that, because you have to interpret like what they're saying, does it match what you read in their design, right? And so don't hold back. I guess that's the short. Like, say whatever like you were reviewing anything else, and you in this role have visibility that people don't when they're working just in their SIGs, and so that also can provide valuable feedback. That's how I approach it. I don't know if David and Wojtek are thinking the same way.
Yeah, I'm trying to read the whole cap, unless like it's like last minute thing or something. But yes, I'm generally trying to read the whole cap, and it happened
Reading the
a
whole
couple
cap
times
is worse.
or maybe more.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I thought you were done. Go ahead.
No, I think it's happening to me, that I'm actually somehow influencing the cap as a whole, not just PR.
Yeah.
I will also just say that reading the cap is worst the first time. So I also find it very useful so that I can understand it. I think that if I can, I think that most caps I should be able to understand what's being discussed, at least at a level of could I use it? Because it's hard to imagine. It's hard for me to imagine a Kubernetes user, an end user who would be able to consume something that I couldn't understand the consumption of. But it's only bad one time for each cap, right? So what happens is when you get it again, the next release, you already have the background. So when you're looking at alpha to beta, where it's a lot more involved, you already know a lot of the background for it. So it is rough matcha. It's worse the first one or two times.
Yeah. But I think it's important because there are things like, I tend to find a lot of the times the things I point out are like, one, is this even something we should be doing as part of the project? That sometimes comes up, or oversights in. Sometimes I see people say, I need this for my use case, but it's like, yes, but if you do that, it's going to make everybody, you're 1% or 0.5% or 1/100% of the people using this, and it's going to make everybody's life worse. So like, those are the kind of things I tend to really look out for, that and see periodically, frankly.
The reason that I'm asking is I got into one situation where I did pointed out security issues with one of the caps, and then in an answer I got information that, oh, this was agreed on SIG architecture level. This was agreed with SIG auth, where I primarily expected a reasonable information about the security risks. I'm pretty sure, John, you might be recognizing which one that was about. And I was like, yeah, but I'm still not seeing the details, and the author still of the cap was going back and forth between, oh, we're going to expose this much, or no, we're going to expose only this little. But still, even with that, it clearly showed that they haven't thought through what the potential risk. They didn't lay it out explicitly in the cap, and then they were trying to hide it behind, oh, we discussed it with the appropriate SIGs and they agreed. But yeah, I think I don't remember if that cap eventually made it through, or it didn't push forward. But yeah, that was the one that I struggled the most, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think to some extent, like, I don't know, I guess, policy wise within, like, we have some authority to say, no, you can't move this forward, but we also probably need to give some, if they really went to our security experts, and our security experts are like, no, it really isn't a concern because of X, Y, and Z, or it's an acceptable level of risk for the value we're getting out of it. Like at some point, I do feel a need to defer to other people's expertise. But I think it's super important to raise it, right? And just be like, hey, I think this is a concern. I remember the one you're talking about, like you're exposing this information, you know, what are you going to do to protect that, or like whatever, right? And you know, raise it, and then if it's like a specifically a security thing, we can pull in some folks from there and maybe have that require that they are an additional approver on the cap to make sure that they've really vetted it in a way that, you know, goes beyond maybe my expertise in that area or whatever.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Any other? Oh, Jeremy.
Yeah, I think I went through and I did sort of what Joe did. I was going to go back and get the links to the actual reviews, but that was a lot of work to do before this. So I have the issues kind of broken down that way. And I think for me, the one area that I noticed that I had the biggest gap in was the subheading examples where the feature requires considering the case of administering thousands of clusters. And I don't know if that's because I just didn't take the time to go back and like refresh my memory on each one of the things that I reviewed in those areas. So I think what I would like to do for the next cycle is to shadow one more time, or however long I need a shadow, but like focus on that one for the next cycle so that I can build some examples up there to include.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a viewpoint we take from for every cap, but like some of them it doesn't matter with, and some of them it does. Like when they tend to be like an individual node feature.
Yeah.
Well, although David raised a good point, like there are all these individual node features that right now we don't have any visibility into, right? So like after they're deployed. So like we should be thinking about that with each one, but yeah, whether it came up as an issue or not is another thing. That sounds good. Okay, well, I don't want to take everybody's time unless there are more things we want to discuss. What I would just say, like, let's do that analysis. Let's see where the gaps are with people who are going to shadow next cycle, and let's try to hit those gaps. And I'm hoping we do, as David said, I'm hoping we do get one or two new folks on board. I don't see Joe here. I'll ping him and see if he can provide links to the individual PRs.
Would it be useful to include that in the markdown file that describes criteria?
Yeah.
I can open a PR to add that if you like.
Thank you. That would be great. Yep. All right. If nothing else, let's wrap it up and we'll talk. I'm out for the next call, so I'll leave it up to you guys whether you want to meet. When does anybody know? I haven't looked at the schedule. I know they just started rustling up the team. What are we looking at for enhancements freeze in 130? Does anybody know?
I would guess based off of the previous releases that it's going to be
during KubeCon.
Early February-ish.
Yeah, February-ish.
Okay. No, code freeze will be during KubeCon. Okay. All right, then we've got a little time. But anyway, so you guys can cancel next time or meet if you want. I will be on vacation.
I would guess it'll be like first or second week of February.
I'm down for canceling. That'd be like my last week before vacation and just trying to taper off and close items off. So.
Okay, so then what I'll do is I'll send out a note, or I'll put it in the agenda, just asking people to do like what we just said, and then we can review those things offline, and we'll skip the next meeting. So, all right, well, we'll see all of you. If not before, I will see you all in the new year. We're a month away, but if we're skipping the next meeting, that's probably we'll skip the next two most likely. So, all right, bye-bye.
See ya.
Yeah.